This segment is brought to you by JigMasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to JigMasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today. Hello, and welcome back to the Paddle and Fin podcast. This is Adventures with Outdoorwoman, and here's your host, Mrs. Susie Roloff. So tell us a little bit about you, your background, where you're from, where you grew up, how'd you get into kayak fishing, what you're involved with right now, any sponsors, and what you're working toward for future endeavors.
Awesome. Well, like you said, I'm Erin Mathis. I live in Holiday, Utah. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I literally did zero fishing there. And it wasn't actually until I came to Utah about 12 years ago. I met some people who like to fish, went out a couple times on a boat, and immediately fell in love with it. It wasn't something I felt like I could do unless I was on a boat for some reason. So I kind of was off and on with it for a while, and was trying to get more into the outdoors. Utah's a beautiful place. We've got mountains and rivers and lakes, and it really is gorgeous here. And so bought a kayak and kind of started just fishing around. Didn't even realize that kayak fishing was a sport. I just did it for fun and found a Facebook page for Kayak Fishing Utah. And once I joined that, I noticed that they had tournaments. This was 2017, I believe. And as soon as I started the tournaments, I realized I was actually pretty decent at fishing. I was kind of had a good understanding of it, and was winning a lot. And I ended up taking Angler of the Year for the first year in kayak in Utah, and really enjoyed it. Had a blast. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I qualified for national championships where I met you. Oh man, that first day was so awesome for you. I loved it. Your face after that first day was like by far one of my favorite memories. But oh, so cool. So national championships was definitely one of the coolest experiences I've had. I last year went through a divorce that crushed me, and kayak fishing, I just dove into it and I did it almost daily. I was out on the water for me, hanging out with other people, by myself. It didn't matter. I just wanted to get out on the water. Started taking my dog on the water. Her name is Hobie, and I ride a Hobie. So started taking her on the water with me. Promised myself I would I think I made a calendar. Rebecca Golden gave me this idea, actually. She had a calendar set out. I think about her often, actually. And I was watching one of her videos, and it was like, these are my travel dates. And then she had a list of all of her baits, and she's like, if I get low. Anyway, I kind of took that. I adopted her theory, and I made a big calendar, and I had 32 tournaments on it last year, or this year, sorry, 2019.
Nice.
This year. And so I traveled to California, which is a 12-hour drive each way every time, 4 or 5 times this year. I can't remember at this point. And I think I did 25 tournaments this year. So not the 32, but man, I went hard. I promised myself I was going to do as many as I possibly could. I almost got burnt out, but yeah, here we are. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I kind of did a little bit of the same thing this year where I went big, this year. I went to a lot of different tournaments, and it was both online and physical tournaments, because there was 3 different clubs I was with. I was with Kayak Bass League, Great Lakes Kayak Fishing Series, and then I fished the Michigan Kayak Trail with them. And then I did a couple of the KBF trail events. I did the St. Clair one. I did the Madison Chain one. I mean, it was a crazy year this year.
So much fun though, right?
Right? Yeah. so worth it. I mean, there were some trips I did and, caught my personal best smallmouth on Lake
Oh,
St. Clair. And like the smallmouth fishing this year had just been so unbelievable for me this year. So
wow.
it was so awesome.
That's
So
so
awesome.
cool you guys have a bunch of options out there. Unfortunately, Kayak Fishing Utah, which I now own and operate, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Yay! Um, that's the only club around here. Yeah, I can go up north to Idaho. There's a couple clubs up in Idaho. Arizona's still a little too far, and then, like I said, the KBF trails, I really wanted to travel to those because the California guys are just way too much fun. So, yeah, that was always a blast. Oh.
So tell me more about how you got the kayak fishing Utah started and who's all involved with you with that.
So a gentleman started Kayak Fishing Utah, and he just started as a Facebook page, I believe. And it got to the point where it really wasn't fun for him. He didn't fish the events. He was just kind of, it was his business. And it kind of just got to a point where it wasn't fun for him. And so I offered, along with my buddy Joe Randall, Shoot Fish Life as his, he's got some hilarious videos, you should check him out. But him and I actually co-own Kayak Fishing Utah now. And we run it as a full nonprofit now. So we don't take any cut. Sure, we pay judges. So, Miss Holly Bombach out in California, she's typically our judge. She's so awesome. I love her. And it's just to keep it unbiased. I want to make sure that I can fish the events as well. If I'm going to put the effort into it, I want to be able to fish them, but I don't want to be the judge. I don't want to leave any room for error there. So, like I said, we're nonprofit now. We're going to rebrand it this coming season. We have 50 members last year. I'm hoping we can get a lot more than that this year. We had well over 100 people that fished it, but as far as members go, there was 50 of us. And we're also going to launch a Kayak Fishing Utah Junior League. So I'm so excited for this.
Oh,
Yeah. So I recently started dating Most Amazing Man, and he's got two young kids who I've been taking fishing a couple times. And of course, the inspiration came from them. And so we started this we're going to start this juniors league up, and it's not to win for money. It's more for the experience. They'll just be paying attorney X fee. But we will keep, I apparently have somebody at the door. Hold on a second. Sorry.
doggone.
Sorry. What is that? Anything? Oh, my dogs are barking at nothing. Sorry. All right. So, back to the juniors league. They're not going to fish for money. It's, like I said, just attorney X fee to get the experience, get them more comfortable with the adults. We actually had a 9-year-old who competed in almost all of our tournaments this year. And I don't know if he ever submitted a fish, but that kid fished his butt off. And that, yeah, he was so awesome. And so we gave him a membership for free this year, and to join the adults if he wants to. But so we're going to keep AOI points and give away a kayak to a kid at the end of the year. I think that's
Amazing.
give him some
That's
motivation.
right. So, are they coming out with their parents to kayak fish? How is that working?
Yeah, so they'll definitely have to fish. The parents are going to have to be next to them if their parents want to fish. So they're going to fish the same exact dates and tournaments that we fish.
Oh,
It'll just
awesome.
be alongside. So if their parent wants to fish the actual tournament, they'll have to fish next to their kid. I'm fine with them giving advice and stuff. Angler responsibility. We hope everybody stays honest and everything. And you just got to put faith in people. But yeah, parents will be out there. I think it'll just be a good experience. We have a lot of kids that want to join, and I think they're just afraid of the adult scene. Plus, it's expensive if you
Right.
aren't an experienced angler. So just giving them an option to fish a little cheaper and have that experience of the competition. So,
Oh, well, that's
but
awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Hopefully, you guys will have lots of photos and stuff like that. Yeah, I can't wait for that. When's the first event for that?
We actually have Sand Hollow will be in April, and that's going to be a KFU event. Plus, KVF is holding a trail here on that same
Yeah.
day.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's our first KVF trail event in Utah. Chad got a hold of me a couple months ago and said, "Where's your best fishery?" And hands down, it's Sand Hollow, which is in southern Utah. It's a little bit of a drive for us northern folks, but so worth it.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm
Nice.
excited.
Yeah, that's so awesome to hear. And I mean, the fact that you guys had 50 members and how many years have you been going now with kayak
Too.
fishing? Two. That is amazing to have
Yeah,
that many members.
we over
So,
doubled from the first year, and then I think we're just going to keep moving. We've got so many people interested, and Joe Randall, the co-owner, he helped me run. We hosted a free introduction to kayak fishing event this year. I barely knew what I was doing at the time, but I felt like I had enough knowledge that I could share it with people. And my goal was to get more women involved, more children, and just get anybody who wants to get involved, like a better idea of the tournament scene or how to rig your kayak or what's best for you or it's not as scary as it seems. Because I remember my first tournament and yeah, I was shaking.
right, yeah, you're just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like,
Yep,
what am I supposed to throw? Like,
yep,
how am I supposed to hold this fish on this board? Like, I don't
yep,
know what I'm doing. That
yeah.
is so awesome. That's so awesome to hear. Oh, I'm so happy.
Yay. That's cool. That's awesome.
Well, tell me a little bit about what do you have for a kayak and gear and such.
So I just sold my PA 14. I had a 2018. So I had a Hobie PA 14. Just sold it because I'm getting the 360. I know. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be rocking a 360 this season. It's in talks. I'm really hoping to be on a Hobie team sometime soon. Nothing's set in stone for sure. It actually is kind of a big hill to climb. We'll get there. But so
Yes,
that's
yes,
yes. I
awesome.
know. I want yeah, that's been like one of my main goals since I started. I was like, I've got to be on the Hobie team for sure. So
Oh, yeah,
but
well, hey, I'll pull for you. I'll contact whoever I need to for you. I
oh,
mean,
you
come
rock.
on.
And then I actually only have one other sponsor. It's Maniac Custom Lures, and they make a fantastic soft plastic. I probably throw them 95% of the time. I'm not going to say I throw them 100% of the time because I'd be lying, but you got to throw crankbaits and other things. But yeah, no, they're fantastic, and I'll be sticking with them as long as they'll have me. As far as other gear, um, I normally roll with like 6 rods. I have 3 bait casters and 3 spinners. And I throw a lot of Dobbins rods. Shimano is probably my favorite reel. And then my favorite rod I have is a drop shot rod from Alpha Angler. And yeah, if I could put that thing in bed with me at night, I probably would. So it's definitely my baby. So,
Nice, very nice.
yeah.
What color 360 are you getting? Are you getting the green or the blue?
I think I'm gonna get the blue.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. My boyfriend
I
wants
mean,
one too, and he wants the blue, and we're like, "Oh, we can't have the same color," but I'm like, "It's just gonna happen."
right. Yeah, like what they came out with the blue one, I was like, oh man, that is so awesome. And then they came out with the green one. I was like, oh man,
Yeah,
like
I know. I wanted the blue. I've wanted the blue, like the Outback blue, for the longest time. I wrote Hobie and asked them to make a hot pink one. Um, they haven't yet. I don't know why.
right.
So honestly, I might wrap it in hot pink at some point. I have
Hey,
no idea.
here you go.
So we'll see.
What are some of your favorite techniques?
Drop shotting is by far something that I don't want to say I mastered it, but it's definitely I throw it majority of the time. Yeah, I don't know. I like Ned rigging is something I got more into at the end of the season. I absolutely hated it. And thanks to Catherine Field, I think you met her recently too. She talked me into Ned rigging. So I started throwing that at the end of my season and had some more luck with it. It was just something I hated doing, and I think I portrayed that through my line, and the fish felt it. So never really caught much off that, and started doing that. Tubes, man, I love tubes. Uh, Smallmouth, largemouth doesn't matter. I'm not really. I'm much more of a finesse fisher than anything. There's certain times of the year where, spinner baits, crankbaits, top water, that all works. Oh, secret I'm going to tell you, and anybody watching is going to laugh. I've never caught a fish on top water.
What?
Yeah,
Oh,
ever. Never.
that is like my ultimate favorite technique out here is top water. Like I just once that frog and plopper bite, the plopper bite out here is oh God.
Oh, that's too funny.
It's
Yeah, I like am embarrassed saying it, but I noticed again, it's kind of like the Ned rig. I'm impatient. I only throw it a few times. I don't get a hit. I put it away for the rest of the day. And so
Yep,
it's definitely my own fault. I'm not going to say, "Oh, there's no top water bite here." Sure, it's less I think than the Midwest or um,
sure.
that area. We don't have a lot of foliage here. Not that that
Yep.
matters, but I feel like there's a difference in
Oh yeah.
terrain and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely my own fault. I defeated myself in top water, but I will next year. It was on my bucket list this year, and now we're iced over. So
That's true. Yeah.
I'm just gonna
When
roll it over to next year.
like come in April, is it still gonna be pretty cold out in your area? What's it gonna be like?
Yeah, so southern Utah is desert, sand dunes, all that stuff. So they do get some snow, but they don't freeze over like we do up here. We've already got ice fishing going on, have for probably a month now. And so, yeah, we have to drive like 5 or 6 hours south. And so it'll be chilly in the mornings. The water temperature will probably be mid 50s or 60s, but the bite will still be there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty good down south. Up here, we're still iced over. So,
Insane. I mean, like we've been in like maybe the mid 40s, but a lot of the lakes around me they closed to fishing because it's waterfowl season. So if I wanted
um,
to go somewhere fishing, I'd have to drive like an hour and a half to 2 hours to go somewhere. So yeah,
gotcha.
my
No,
local.
they allow waterfowl season and fishing at the same time here. So,
I know it'd be nice if they did that because God, I'd love to see what Banner would be like in the fall, but
sure.
well, hunters kind of take precedence. So yeah,
Yeah, totally get that. We
yeah.
do have two really cool hot spring lakes here,
Ooh.
and they've got bass in them.
Oh,
And
nice.
so the water is like mid 70s. It's snowing around you, and you're catching big bass. But it's quite a drive from where I'm at, but it is a treat. It's really a cool. If you ever get a chance to do something like that, it's definitely really cool. Big bass in there, so it's fun.
Yeah, we've got a couple power plant lakes here in
Mm.
Illinois. One of them about just about an hour and a half from me. So I've pondered about maybe going there and trying it out sometime. Of course, that's kind of out of my realm of knowing what to do that time of year. But I'm always trying to find different ways to be like, all right, even though I may not do it or know how to do it, let's try to learn.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Just think of
yeah,
water temperature. That's all the fish care about. They
right.
eat the same things. So,
Right, exactly.
stuff.
Awesome, awesome. But yeah, so yeah, you're definitely qualified for the 2020 National Championship down in Gunnersville. Woohoo!
I'm so excited.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Any plans for that besides, pre-fishing and whatnot? Just hanging out?
Yeah, I actually haven't made any plans yet. Um I I think I'm gonna camp on the lake. I saw that camping was super cheap. Don't y'all go reserving the camping spots before I get a chance. But no, camping's super cheap. I want to get out there about a week and a half early, probably just a week ish, and get some pre fishing in. I plan on ordering a few graphs and maps and kind of just doing some. I'll tell you what, Louisiana was very humbling for me. Um, I thought fishing might be pretty similar everywhere, and I had never seen what are the trees there? The cypress trees? I had never seen nor understood a cypress tree until I got there, and, man, that was a cool experience, but also very humbling. So I'm gonna do a little bit more research, instead of just relying on whatever knowledge I think I have about fishing.
Right? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Sometimes we like to fall back to that, but then other times it's like, yeah, I probably really should learn a few things.
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
yeah, it's still definitely a personal challenge for myself too to kind of really understand, maps and charts and stuff.
Mhm.
But at the Worldwide Women's Fishing Federation event, Christine had an awesome seminar there where she kind of talked about, how to read charts and maps and how to use Google Earth Pro to kind of look at the history of maps and stuff. And it blew my mind because I'm just like, why haven't I been using this before?
Right?
So
Yeah, that's incredible. I wish I could have made it out there with you guys.
yeah, we totally missed you out
Ah,
there, but hopefully we can get you out there next year.
for sure. It's a definite. I'll be there.
Awesome. Yep, it was an awesome experience. So yeah, we're excited for next year, and I think we're gonna have an even bigger crowd than what we did this year.
That's so cool. Yeah, I loved watching Catherine Field, I mean, she's from here, so I can really relate with her, but, I loved watching her journey with you guys through that whole weekend or whatever it was, and, how much it changed her life was just so cool. That's what I wanna foster and, help, grow the sport like everyone says, but, sometimes us women just need an extra little well, men and women, but, let's stick together. We need an extra little push and, a little pat on the back and support from our peers, and I think that what you guys put on out there was phenomenal, and I can't wait to be a part of it, so,
Awesome. Yep. So
yeah.
glad. Awesome. Let's see here. What else do I have for you? So speaking of, kind of, women in this sport, what has it been like for you, being a woman in this sport? Kind of getting the whole kayak fishing Utah together, just fishing in general. Have you had any negative experiences, positive experiences? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Sure, yeah, I actually love hearing a lot of different women's stories. Christine obviously is, very prominent in the, social media world, and her and I talk every now and then, and when she came out to visit, I had a couple good conversations with her, but, all mine have been positive. I honestly can't think of anything negative that's happened. I'm not putting myself out on YouTube yet, so I know that's just opening myself up to more people, more watchers, and possible negative comments, but, I do this for me, and, sure, I run a club for other people, and I do wanna get people into the sport, but like I said, my all my situations that I've been in have been super positive. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I also joined Kayak Fishing Utah when it was almost brand new. So it's almost like I was one of the founding fathers or whatever you wanna call it to pe we were all brand new, so we were all right here on a level playing field. So it's not like I came in after there was already an AOI. Like I was the angler of the year for the first year that we had tournaments.
Wow.
So that I think for me that helped out. That's not a bragging point. It's more just it was like I'm not to be messed with, but it was just more of a I'm here. I can fish just as well as you. Doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, child, whatever. If you've got the skills and you've got something to float on, it doesn't matter what it is. Let's fish.
Yep.
And Utah, our club has some of the coolest members, man. I nobody we're all competitive, but it's like friendly, fun competition. It's not, "Oh, I'm better than you." There's no smack talking. There's nothing that I've seen that's been negative, and so I think that's really been, one of the reasons why I've always pushed forward with the sport, and, honestly, all the members they're my family now. I mean, I've met some of the coolest people that I hope are in my life forever. So, yeah, it's been really positive. the only negative experience I ever had with fishing was I did a boat tournament up in Idaho, and I'm not saying that boaters are worse, it was just my experience. Um, th I was the only female, we ended up taking, like, 2nd place, and, none of the other boaters talked to me, like, not a single one. And I mean, I tried interacting, it's not like they purposely ignored me, but it was very, surface, so and I'm not saying it's Idaho either, so don't just the experience that I went through. But so yeah, that's been the only negative. I've had nothing but positive feedback. Even taking over the club, the all the feedback that I've gotten has been, "Oh, you're making it better. You're doing a great job. We love what you guys are doing." That to me is the validation that I need to know that I could keep pushing forward in the same direction that I'm going, and hopefully we can just make it a bigger and better thing and get everybody involved. So
Amazing. That's so awesome to hear.
yeah. How about
Yeah.
you? What are your experiences like?
Oh man, I've had a mixed bag of experiences. Because I first got into kayak fishing, just I did it for fun. Back in 20, I kind of did it a little bit in like 2012, 2013,
Nice.
and I discovered the world of Hobie in 2014 when my husband took me to a rec show, and Quest Water Sports was down there having one of their booths, and they were showing Hobies, and I saw what they could do, and I was just like, oh my God, I gotta have one. Like, what is and I didn't know anything else about the kayak fishing world. And
Sure.
so, I saved up some money and I drove up to Ottawa. It's about an hour and a half from where I live right now. And went up there and got my new blue Hobie Mirage Outback at the time. And that's when they had a flyer there for a kayak fishing tournament. And I was like, a kayak fishing tournament? Like, what is this? This seems awesome. And so I inquired about it, and they're like, "Yeah, we've got a couple going on this season. You should come up." And I think it was in July of 2014 when I competed. Got the hog trough and everything, and I didn't have a clue as to what I was doing. And so I did catch a couple white bass, but one of them was really small, and I don't think they might have had a minimum inch limit back then, I can't remember, but I think, like, I had, like, a maybe, like, a 13-inch white bass, and that was all I caught, but I was like, "Hey," I did somewhat good. And then I inquired with the tournament director later on that year. I said, "Hey, can you tell me more about like how do tournaments work? This was really fun." And like all the guys were like super like supportive of me being there. They made sure that I had everything that I needed and I understood what I was doing. And it was they were very welcoming. I remember
Yes.
that. And then when I inquired with the main director, I was like, "Hey, how do these work?" He was just like, "Well, come be on the staff, and you'll learn firsthand." And I was like, okay." So literally, they threw me in on board, and so they had like a private group and then a Facebook chat. So, they'd kind of be chatting about stuff and they'd be talking about stuff. And I'd just be like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And they're like, it's okay. It's okay. You'll learn, once we have our actual first tournament. So that next following year in 2015 was when I actually like competed. And so we had 4 different events. The first, and it was a multi-species event type thing too. So the first event was pike, and then
Okay.
the second event was either bass or catfish, and then the third event was either bass or catfish. I can't remember which one was which. And then their fourth and final event was the salmon tournament. So it wasn't just straight bass; it was
That's
mixed,
crazy.
variety, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
yeah. And so after the first 3, I was like, all right, I got a pretty good feel of, how this works and everything. And then our final event was our salmon event on Lake Michigan. And unfortunately, we had a angler die
Oh,
that
geez.
year. Yeah. So that was a very,
At that
uh,
tournament?
yes,
Oh,
yes. Yep,
jeez.
yep, at the tournament. He he had somehow got off of his kayak. We don't know if he fell off or if he had a fish on and it pulled him off or whatever, but he didn't have a dry suit on, but he had a PFD on, and he basically got hypothermia
Oh,
because
geez.
Michigan that time of year. I mean, the air temperature was probably, with the wind and stuff, it was a little chillier. It was probably in the 40s maybe, and then the water temperature was maybe 50. So you're only
Oh,
looking at like, yeah, 90. So you're not even near that 120 roll. But like,
yeah.
you fall in that cold of water, I mean, it zaps you. And
Shocks ya.
yeah. So it wasn't quite the cutoff time for check-in, and I was actually handling check-in at that day. I'll never forget it. His mom had come up and said, "Well, hey, have you?" His name was Max, and she's like, "Well, has he checked in yet?" And I was like, looking over my list, and he was actually the only one who hadn't checked in yet. I was like, "Well, no, he hasn't checked in yet, but we still have got about maybe 15 minutes before you actually need to check in. So maybe he's on his way in." And she's like, "Okay, well, we'll try getting hold of him again." And then it was maybe about 20 after, was when we started getting worried. And his parents had tried calling him a few times, and it went straight to voicemail. So that was concerning right away. And his car and trailer was still in the parking lot, but no boat. So we're like, okay, we have to start initiating a search. So they called the Coast Guard and got a search started. Then they got the chopper and started a
Oh
whole
my God.
and everything. Yep. And it was probably about 30 minutes after we initiated the Coast Guard search. I can't remember if it was the chopper or the boat that found him, and they said that he was about maybe like 15 or 20 foot away from the kayak, so he was obviously already in the water. And they pulled him out and they tried to resuscitate, but he was gone at that point. And they brought him back. And when the Coast Guard got back, they told us that he had an EPIRB. And so what that is, it's an emergency personal identify it. Basically what it does is you like push a button or you flip a switch on it, and it's supposed to emit a emergency beacon to like local Coast Guard or whatnot, and have like a really um bright strobe light on it. Well, they said that it was obvious that he had tried to activate it, but it didn't work.
Oh, geez.
So it was very, very hard. Yeah, to kind of go through that and discover that. So it was a very learning uh, opportunity, or just it was very it was a hard day.
Yeah, I'm sorry you guys had to go through that. That's tough.
It's
I
yeah.
can't imagine. That's like my worst fear.
Yeah.
That's
And
why we take check-ins very seriously now. It's if you don't check in, you
yep.
know, you might eventually get kicked from the club because it's safety is number 1.
Yes.
So,
Yep. And sometimes, I think people, take that for granted. But, after having that as like, one of my first experiences, it is like my top and first priority,
yeah.
whether it be for myself or for the clubs that I'm in, and, some guys will be all mad when we're like, hey, we may need to call it for the weather purposes. And they're like, oh, it's just a little wind. And I'm like, no, it may be just a little win to you, but if we've got somebody who's brand new on the team,
Mhm.
we got to consider everybody in this, and if they flip
Absolutely.
over, that's it's not a good thing to happen. And
Yeah.
actually, back in September, we had another incident. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but it was the first ever kayak bass fishing.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Okay.
Big-headed doggos.
Gosh.
And
I don't even know what they're barking at. Oh, a dog walked by. God forbid.
they're on it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You had an incident last September. It was
Yeah.
the first ever. Say it
Oh,
again.
so September, it was a 2-day event, and we had the top 5 teams from 10 different clubs in Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan. And we competed on not Sandcrest, but Newton Lake, kind of down in southern-ish Illinois. And day one, we had a kayak angler who nearly got ran over by a boat. His kayak got ran over by a boat.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
He had to jump out of his kayak last minute because the boat didn't see him. So what had happened is the guy was sitting in the back of his boat, steering his boat, and then his wife was in the front of the boat, but she was turned around looking at him, and they were planing. So, kayaks being the small things that they are, yep, he wouldn't have even seen him. And so his name was Brock. He had been watching, and he had heard the boat, which was a great benefit to him. He was aware of his surroundings, aware of what was going on, because he kind of kept on looking, because he saw that the boat was kind of coming at him, and he's just like, man, are they coming straight at me? Like, I hope they see me. And it's not like he was you know like right up against the shore or anything. He was about maybe 20 feet off the shore, and he had a little bit of a camouflage type kayak. It was like a little Pelican. And sure enough, the boat started turning, coming straight at him, and he yelled and bailed out of his kayak, and the boat ran right over him.
Oh my gosh, that could have been so much worse.
Yeah, it could have been
Wow.
a lot worse. So, but luckily it wasn't. And being one of the main peoples there, so I initiated calling like DNR to come out and help out and whatnot. Because I was like, well, even if nobody got hurt, we still have to make a case and whatnot.
100%.
Yeah. So I mean, it was unfortunate that the boaters, they didn't have insurance on their boat or anything. So if Brock wanted to try to get some compensation for the gear he lost because his phone went in the water, he lost rods and stuff. They said he might have to go to small claims for it, but
It probably would have cost him more than what it was worth, right? Oh,
but
jeez.
what's really awesome though is the support that everybody pitched in for after that. Like, I mean, we had a box sitting out on the table, and the directors hadn't even initiated this. Somebody just came up and said, here's a donation box, we're going to start collecting stuff for him.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
and people just started throwing money in. And then part of the sponsor prizes that we had, I mean, he got like 4 or 5 new rods.
That's awesome.
People were giving him stuff, and like Brian Schiller was out there too, who's with Paddle and Fin, and he's like, dude, I've got another kayak, you can use all my gear, you don't even have to like worry about a thing. And so we convinced him enough to stay and fish on day 2 and whatnot. So, but it was really awesome to see the community and camaraderie of all the different anglers come together, to help them out. So
Absolutely.
that was really awesome to see. I mean, I've definitely had my fair share of negative experiences too. Being a tournament director, it's challenging, and I've been on 2 different tournament groups for quite a while now. I've been with Great Lakes Kayak Fishing Series since like the end of 2014, but 2015 was when I started. And this past year in 2019, I had gotten bumped up to like the head director, and I've been with them for like 4.5 years now. And at the end of this season, I am just like, I've been involved with a lot of different stuff, and I need some more time for me this next season, so I'm gonna have to step down from my responsibilities with that.
Really?
Can
I
I
get
do
it.
some right? Yeah, do some for me. And then I've also been a staff member for Kayak Bass League, and I'm still going to be hanging out with them for a little bit, doing some stuff, not quite as heavy as responsibilities, but next year I'm just like, I definitely do need a little bit of a break from making the the big decisions and
Sure.
doing
Absolutely.
things, I mean, I've been doing it for so long, because it's been important to me, and I've loved being, kind of that part of helping things grow and making things work. Like, I've loved being on the back end of things, but then also it does come with price and responsibility. You have to deal with the upset anglers at a judging you might have made. Hey, the mouth was open, I got to give you that deduction. And they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh well, I wish I known that because I might have had a better picture. Well, it is angler
Angler
responsibility.
responsibility. Ugh. It's a tough one. We had our state championship was the first time I really had to deal with that, and a newer angler to our club, he submitted a fish. I can't remember what happened. I think he was touching the tail fin
Ah,
or something to it was something new this year, but it's still in the rules, and we do follow KBF rules just to make it simple all around, except for Utah's a lot smaller fish, so we allow 8 inches and above. And some of our I wanted my only tournament I actually took first at this year, my limit was like 61 inches. That's like how
wow.
yeah, that's how small a fish we have here sometimes, depending on the lake. But, anyway, we had to deny 2 of his fish, and, I can't remember, it might have taken him out of the money, and he was very, very upset, and I mean, I felt for him. Trust me, like, totally understand. But you're right, it's angler responsibility. I can't you can't make exceptions for people because it's not fair,
Yep.
and I think that's what it comes down to. I've got a couple older people in our group that sometimes they always submit fish and the mouth is always open, and so like I'll message them and be like, oh
Yep.
hey, you're doing so good, I'm so proud of all the fish you caught, let's work on closing those fish's mouths, and just keep it positive. And that's really all you can do because like I said, I can't even make exceptions for them because
Yep.
it's not fair to anybody. So you're right, it's tough place to be in, but I think consistency and transparency is key for
Yeah.
running clubs. So,
Exactly. Exactly. So, and it's kind of been all I've known kind of since I started getting into the kayak fishing world, is being part of staff and everything. I've gotten to enjoy, competing and stuff like that, but then I've also had kind of on both sides, competing and directing. So,
mhm,
while I do get to compete in tournaments that I am part of staff on, I still have to, I don't get to put in as early, I have to come in a lot
exactly.
later.
Yep.
If there's situations that come up, I have to stop and, figure out what's going on. So,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't really, take those things into
Sure.
consideration. And I'm actually going to be having a podcast with a couple other tournament directors. So I'm going to get AJ
Oh,
um,
nice.
here. I'm going to
Oh
get
god, I bet he's got stories.
I'm gonna get Tom Mullins on here from Michigan Kayak
Oh,
Trail. I'm gonna get Sam Jones from Indiana Kayak Anglers, and we're just
okay.
gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk
Yeah.
about, hey, what it's like to be a tournament director and
Mhm.
what it takes to make sure that the tournament you're competing in runs smooth.
Yes.
And what we have to deal with. Because I mean, a lot of times there might be a situation going on that anglers don't even know that happened.
Absolutely.
It's not something that everybody needs to know, but when somebody might say, oh well, hey, they didn't have their PFD on, we have to look into it. We have to take everything into consideration. We can't just push somebody off and be like, oh well, I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah. It's tough.
so
We have to do our due diligence or
yeah,
else, we're not doing the club justice. And
exactly.
I mean, it's for money, it's for bragging rights, it's for personal growth. There's so many things that come along with this sport. If it was just for fun, it might be a different story, but I mean, there's so much more that goes into it. You got some people that want to make a career out of this. You
Yeah.
can't take these things lightly. And I know a lot of our people do this for fun and they're like, it's just for fun. Like, really? Like the mouth was barely open. Well, I get it, but and I totally
Yep.
understand. And I was laughing because you were talking about how you got to deal things within. There was one tournament this year. We had a couple new people and they were brand new. And I probably got over 200 Facebook messages as I'm answering their questions during the tournament. and, and I'm totally fine with it. You know,
Right.
sure, please read the rules beforehand, but I only want to help people learn and understand, and so that's fine.
Yep.
It's just the things that we deal with, and as long as I get to fish and enjoy that part of it, I will stay here as long as it doesn't impede on my family, and my personal life.
Yep.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. Cause yeah. And that's been the other part of it too, is, some people learn in so many different ways. You might have people who sit there and have read the rules 30 times, but then when they actually put things into application, it may not click for them right away. So sometimes they need either the hands-on experience or somebody to show them. And then finally they get that light bulb moment and they're like, oh my God, I'm so
could
stupid. I didn't like that.
have
So
done this the whole time.
yeah, yeah. So sometimes, it's just, a matter of, how you handle things too, because I
Sure.
mean, I've been on both ends of, having faced, not so good judgment calls and
Mhm.
not so good not necessarily like directors in a sense, but though sometimes situations could have been handled a little bit
Yeah,
differently. But again, sometimes you just got to take things as they are. Everybody's
totally
different.
agree.
You can't please everybody, and
Right.
yeah,
Well, like I said, I implore questions. I remember when I was at the beginning and I had questions, I was too proud to ask. And so I
right,
learned the hard way, and I learned the really long way. Instead of asking questions, I eventually found it out myself, but how much more work did I have to do? There's two things that could come with that. One, you could learn a lot more in that experience, but like I said, it takes a lot longer. So I prefer people to ask me questions. I'm all about
yeah,
that.
yep,
So get comfortable with
exactly,
what you're.
right, yeah, and it still even to this day, it's sometimes being a woman too, it's hard to you know try not to second guess yourself, but always remember, to ask for help too,
Mhm.
because like there's still a lot of things that I don't know. I'm still new to this, really. I mean, having really only done this for 2015 for 4.5 years, that's really not a long time compared to some of these other people.
Sure, and that's double me, so I'm, like, twice behind you.
Right. Yeah. So, sometimes, and, not saying that, I'm like, a popular figure or anything, or might be trending that way, but, sometimes I'll, try to, not really try to, but like I'll overthink things, be like, oh man, people are going to have all these expectations of me and everything. And, I'll get down on myself and then be like, wait a minute, stop it.
Yeah,
Oh,
get some more confidence, girl. You are one of the ones up there. That post, the other day in KBF, somebody asked, they said, "I have a young daughter," and they said,
oh,
"I wanna know what people to
oh,
follow." And, like, "You're in My Name" came up, and I was,
right.
like, telling my boyfriend, I was almost in tears. I was just like, "I can't believe people look at me as someone to, like, learn from, like, that feels so good," you know? So,
Yeah.
have that confidence because you're
Yeah.
definitely you're definitely one of those ones, and I took that as a positive, like, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna do things people are like, "Why does she fish that way? That is not how you fish," or, "That's not even how you kayak," like, whatever it might be. There's a million things I'm gonna do wrong, but if I can help give one person a little bit more confidence in themselves, that so this next year, all I was getting at is that I'm gonna start a YouTube channel, I think. I'm terri
Awesome.
I'm terrified. I
Right.
me on me on camera is like, I'm just so not graceful, but I think that's just gonna be part of my spiel, you know? So I just wanna like I said, if I can help one person be a little bit more confident and comfortable with themselves, and then that's just something else, that's just another thing I can put in my book of things I've done. I had a YouTube channel and tried to teach people how to fish. So I think that's great, and I applaud you for everything that you're doing and this podcast, and you're really getting out there. I'm so proud of you. Like I said, I'm so happy I met you in March. That was like one of my highlights of that whole trip. So
Right.
for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to hang out a bit more too
Yes.
at this one because, like, I felt like I hardly had any time to talk to anybody
It
there
was
because it was,
busy. It was crazy.
yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna be down there for a week. So
Yes.
and I know I'm going to be staying with a couple of other ladies. So like Mel Isaacs,
I think you're
Catherine.
staying with Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Staying in a place. So yeah, we'll definitely have to have some bonfires and hangouts.
Yeah.
So
I will come
excited.
over for a beer too, that's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely want to. That is something I really want to work on next year, is just getting to know some of these lady anglers more, and just, reaching out there, encouraging others, and just learning more too.
Totally
So,
agree. Right
yeah.
there with you. Awesome.
Let's see here. What else haven't I asked you yet? What is how was this asked to me? And I couldn't think of an answer, but what's the most interesting or unique situation you've ever had happen to you while kayak fishing, whether it be with like another angler or like an animal or just fishing in general, or
Um, I watched a sheep give birth one time. That was weird.
cute.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
It was really cool. The little lamb was so cute. It's crying out and there's blood everywhere. It was really weird. No, it was actually a really cool experience. I don't know. I can't think of anything like too crazy. I almost have been hit by a water skier. He probably got a foot from the front of my boat. Yeah, boats out here are crazy. They are everywhere. I'm trying to think if there's I've been pretty lucky, I'll be honest with you. Like, I haven't had too many crazy instances happen on the water. I caught somebody's wallet one time. And other than that, like, I seriously, everything's been boring, which is pretty awesome. So, in
Right?
Louisiana, I ran and pedaled from a alligator, right? No,
Yeah.
yeah, there. I pedaled as fast as I could from an alligator and pointed out to all my friends, and it was a branch the entire time. Like, seriously, that's how boring I am.
I was kind of upset that I didn't get to see an alligator when I was down in Louisiana. I was actually,
Yeah,
but I'm pretty certain that I went over one that was just, down at the bottom.
sure.
Because there was one time when I was going, and all of a sudden there's this weird shape, and then like the back part of it tapered off, and I was like, "That's an alligator." Yeah,
Yeah, I got
that's
more
an alligator.
I got way more comfortable with it after I was on the water for more than one day because I was just like, they clearly want nothing to do with us or they'd be hanging
Right.
out. But yeah, that was definitely one of my fears. I was like, I'm putting my gun on the boat. Like, I'm not dealing with this. No,
Right.
no, it was fine. It was way more tame than I thought it would be. So, but yeah, no, like I said, I don't really have any like crazy experiences, which is like I said, has been I will take that and hopefully it stays that way for a while. So
Yeah.
what
Very
about
nice.
you? Let's hear your craziest one.
Um, well, one of my craziest ones was actually this year. And I was at this lake up in Minocqua, Wisconsin, and I had to portage my kayak about 3/4 of a mile to get to this little lake. And all day I was catching just smallmouth, and it was amazing. I was having a heck of a time. I was using a jerk bait, and I had my last fish on. I was like, all right, I was getting towards the end of the day. I'm like, I'm gonna catch a couple more and call it quits. And I had the last fish, and I'd reached down to lip them because I didn't have my grips with me. I don't usually like using grips for smallies or whatnot.
Sure.
And of course, smallmouth, they don't like to stay still for a second.
Right.
And I had reached down with my right hand, and the jerk bait was kind of like on top of its head, and it flinched really hard. And I felt, the sharp prick of like the hooks, and I knew right away what happened. And I was like, son of a bee. So I looked down at my hand, and sure enough, I had an embedded hook, like almost in like one of the bottom joints of my fingers. And I was like, yeah.
Oh, no.
So I got the fish off with the hook, threw it in the water, and I'm sitting there in my kayak and I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? So
YouTube. That's what I would do.
well, yeah, I'd actually kind of looked on YouTube, but the thing is I'm right-handed, and it was embedded in the bottom part of my ring finger, and it was a jerk bait, so there were 3 sets of treble hooks on there, right? So I didn't have a split ring plier on me, so I didn't have any way to like remove them, and trying to do stuff with my left hand with a lure in my other hand, trying to do that, I was like, man, I am screwed.
Jeez.
So I got out to shore, and there was a couple other people out there, and I went around asking. I was like, "Hey, does anybody have like really sharp cutters or like a split ring plier?" And everybody had pliers, but nothing that would really work. So I'm just
Sure.
like, "Damn it!" So I had called a friend of mine who lives in the area, and I was like, "Hey, I need some help." And he's like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got an embedded hook in my finger, and I can't really get it out on my own because I'm out here and whatnot." And he's like, "Okay." And so I'm waiting for him, and I thought, well, maybe I could try and just push it out. Yeah, no, that wasn't happening.
Like a Band-Aid.
I wiggled it around a little bit, and I was like, nope. I mean, I can handle pain pretty well, and it didn't hurt while it was just sitting there, and it didn't bleed. So
Sure.
I'm just like, it was more awkward than anything. And so my buddy came out, and he had these huge, like
Bolt
they could
cutters?
yeah, bolt cutters,
Okay.
cutters, and I'm like, Jesus, dude, you aren't messing around. So the worst part was actually him cutting it off, because the way he had to have the angle of the cutters on my finger, like actually pushed it kind of in my finger a little bit. But after that, then it was smooth sailing. And he's actually he's like some kind of eye doctor. So he had some what's the numbing stuff called?
Oh, lidocaine or something like that.
That. And so he's like, well, I'm going to numb you up just because I want to make sure that it's not caught on a tendon or anything like that. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So numb me up, and, we're moving around. He's like, all right, well, I'm just going to pull it out. I was like, go for it. And boom, got it right out.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, that was quite the experience. And
Oh, jeez.
needless to say, ever since then, I'll always have a pair of split ring pliers in my kayak.
Yeah, that's something I should probably put in mind too. I always think, "Oh, I'll never get a hook in me," and I mean, I've bled before, but never really stuck myself.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's
And
too
then
funny.
and then actually when was this? This was, gosh, I think it was sometime in September. The KBL championship was going on, and I'd caught a muskie on a plopper. Of course I didn't have fish grips with me, and I mean, the back hook is embedded in the roof of the mouth of this
Oh,
muskie.
no.
So I was like, oh man, this is going to be tough. So I've got my left hand underneath the gill of it, the gill plate, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to use my pliers to get it out, and it flinched. And man, that sucker dug his teeth into me pretty deep.
I think I remember seeing that picture. Did you post something about that? Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I mean, that bled for quite a while, and I was like, but I was just like, I mean, what's a prompt care gonna do? They're probably just gonna be like, well, you might need a stitch on that, maybe. But I was just like, I'm
Maybe.
gonna put it up and like super glue it and be fine.
There
So,
you go. Tough chick, you.
so
We
yeah,
learn to accommodate the,
right.
situations. That's
Yep,
funny.
yeah. And I actually had to use my first aid kit, not just on myself, but on another angler. Gosh, this was a couple years ago. KBL angler Sean Wood. We were at Yellowstone Lake in Wisconsin, and he had gotten a like a crankbait stuck in a tree, and he went to pull it out, and it came back and it nailed him like right in the face. And so like he was like dripping blood from his face. I'm like, dude, are you okay? Like, yeah, man, I got this lure came back and hit me in the face. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, dude, I got a first aid kit. He's like, oh, good. So like, I got some stuff out and everything, and he had one of those ridiculous big bandits like right over his like
Oh,
eyebrows.
that's too funny. Yeah, head wounds are nothing to mess around with. All these don't stop bleeding ever. That's too funny. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's see what else have I had. Even before I got started in kayak fishing, I'd caught was it a bluegill or was it a cat? It was a bluegill, and it had finned me really good in my pinky finger. And of course, I didn't think anything of it at the time. Well, about a month later, I started developing like this weird bump in my finger. And I was like, what is this? So, like something weird's going on. And like it would kind of roll around. It wouldn't hurt, but it'd just be there. So I went like to the doctor. They're like, yeah, you've got like a foreign mass growing in your finger. I was like, what? And they're like, oh, well, we can go in and take it out. And so they went and just cut the little mass out. And once they like kind of filtered through the like fatty tissue, they're like, huh, it looks like a weird clear thing. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a fish fin probably.
Totally broke off in your finger. Oh, that's funny.
Off my finger. Like, who would have thought? So,
Oh, that's too funny.
oh man,
Goodness.
never a dull day though. That's for sure.
Oh, that's awesome though. Gotta love
Yeah,
it.
it's good times.
The
Well,
things you go
do you ever have to worry about like rattlesnakes and stuff like that?
We do have rattlesnakes. I've never seen one on the water. I actually don't know much. I've never seen one in Utah. So, but we do have them here, mostly up in the mountains, and our lakes aren't typically up there. Not the Bass Lakes. Trout, we do have a lot of trout lakes up there, but no, we got a bunch of gopher snakes. I am terrified of snakes. Honestly, any like reptile, I want nothing to do with. But I kind of wanted to get a picture of this gopher snake going across the water one time, and I kind of started pedaling towards it, and it stopped and turned and looked at me, and then started slithering my way, and I was like, "Nope, I'm out of here." So yeah, we don't. There's not too much. I think they're muskrats. Those guys get a little curious of our baits and stuff. We do have beavers here. Those guys are not the nicest. Yeah. We don't typically have too much other than that. Lots of birds that are curious about our lures and stuff too. So yeah, that's about
Nice.
it. Really.
I've scared the crap out of a beaver before. Because at Banner, they're out there too, and they'll come out, at dusk. And I was out there fishing a beaver hut, and beaver comes up, but his head was faced the other way, so he didn't even know that I was behind him. And I'm like, oh man! So like I cast out a frog, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be interesting. So like he's just up sitting around, and then he turns around, and he sees me, and then he just goes under and slaps his tail down.
Oh yeah. It's so loud too, man. They're so powerful with those tails.
Yeah, they were.
That's too funny. Yeah, I've pissed off a beaver too in my time. Yeah. They kind of scare me, I won't lie. I don't know what their intentions are. I don't want anything to do with it. So
Right.
that's too funny.
Yeah. Every now and then I'll see when I've gone to Imaquan, I'll see river otters out there too. So that's
Oh,
pretty,
okay.
yeah, they're cute.
Yeah, that's cool. I saw some of those out in California. I don't think we have them here, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure we don't have any otters here, but yeah, saw some out in California. They were fun watching them play around. So, oh, yes, Delta, California. So the Delta is this weaving river system that comes in, it filters out to the ocean. And so sea lions, those guys are jerks. I thought they were the cutest things. One literally chased me at the Delta. I totally forgot about that. And then my buddy Shane had this little like sun dolphin sit-in kayak. This thing probably weighed like 30 pounds. And that's what he fished out of out there. And one chased him literally out of the water. He calls me. He's like, can you come get me? I'm on a rock pile and the sea lion won't let me back to my kayak. And they're huge. Like, they're not like cute little animals. They're huge things. And I feel like, yeah, they're not very nice.
Oh my God.
The Californians might say something different, but man, oh man, yeah. And then we'd go out, at dark too, and you hear these things like they'll come out of the water and they the growl or chuff or blow water out of their noses. So you hear it around you, but you can't see anything because it's too dark.
Oh man, yeah, that'd be kind of creepy.
Yeah, I think I'd rather deal with a sea lion over an alligator though. That was upset, so. But yeah, that was probably the closest experience to an animal I've had is definitely the sea lions. Now that I think about it, but that's funny.
Very interesting. Well, besides the national championship in the end of March and beginning of April, what else are you most looking forward to next year?
Oh boy. I'm excited to do our second annual Intro to Kayak Fishing and get some more people involved. That was a really good event for us this year. We had over 100 people show up. I had a sponsor, Idaho River Sports. They're great. They're up in Boise. I just moved even further south, so I probably won't stay with them. I can't really commit to helping them out. They're 4 or 5 hours away now, but they donated a kayak for the event. So we got to give one away to somebody who, had never really kayaked before. I'm really excited to do that again. And the Hobie series, I want to get a couple. I know they're going to the Delta. So sea lions, here I come. And so I definitely want to, I didn't get to fish any of the Hobie this year. And man, it looks like it's such a well-run tournament series. And I'm really, really excited to take part in some of those. I'm really stoked for our biggest event next year, which will be the KBF Trail event at Sand Hollow. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping we can get some California people over, maybe some up from Arizona, Nevada, Colorado. I want it to be our biggest turnout. I think our biggest turnout so far is 44 people, which is fantastic for a club that's been alive for 2 seasons, I think. So
phenomenal.
We got some work to do, but we'll get there. So I'm definitely excited for those. So many clubs seem to have popped up recently. I honestly had to stop reading about them because I was getting like confused as to who was who and what's going where. And like people are complaining about payouts here and there. And I'm just like, I'm going to fish whatever's closest to me and whatever sounds like fun, and that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm definitely excited to do some more traveling. Like I said, with my boyfriend, I gained 2 awesome kids as well. And traveling with them this year was a lot of fun. I'm excited to do some more of that and show him a little bit more of the U.S. And Brian's been like my biggest support. He's really helping out with KFU and stuff. So that really excites me with traveling with them and getting to see more places, make it more of a vacation than I got to go here. I've got to pre-fish. I've got to win. Like now it's more of a relax. Let's have fun with this. So that's what I'm excited for.
Awesome. Good deal. Yeah, I know I've definitely got a lot of work this winter to kind of figure out what events I'm going to commit to, between Hobie and local clubs and KBF. And it's just, I agree with you. It's just like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, there used to be like a handful of clubs. And then now it's just like, you've got this club in this state and you've got 6 clubs in this state. And then you've got and KBF, you're like, man, but like, people can complain, all day about payouts and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, look at the opportunities we have now.
Yes, absolutely.
And not just physical tournaments, but online tournaments. If somebody just wants to fish for fun for a month for a KBF tournament, go for it.
Yes, exactly.
That's why they're there. I mean, there are other tournaments, for those who are going to make a career out of it. That's great. And then, we can't we can't ignore the average Joe or, the beginner,
Yep.
everybody, has to get in here somehow. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's just about giving everybody a platform and an opportunity, like you said. I think the monthly online, we do multi-species online tournaments for monthlies, and I think that's perfect for people who are afraid to use a hog trough in a live series, or they're afraid to embarrass themselves. They have a whole month to figure something out, and like, they could even say, "Oh, I just never had a chance to go fishing," if they want. It doesn't really matter, there's no embarrassment there at that point. And so I think
yep,
that's a good way for people to get over that hump, or maybe they're not close enough to a trail series, or whatever, so they can do the monthly. I do really enjoy that aspect of it. It's not something that I participate in too much. Um, but I think it's perfect. Like you said, you have to cater to everybody at that point.
yep,
So,
yep.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely lots of awesome things to look forward to. So, yeah. Well, do you have anything else that you want to add for us today?
No, not necessarily. Check out Maniac Custom Lures. My buddy Shoot Fish Life, Joe Randall, he's got a great YouTube channel out there. Catherine Field, she's got a phenomenal YouTube channel for any woman who's looking to get over some of their fears. This girl just lays it out all on the line, and I love it. She's fearless, and she may say she's not, but that girl is definitely a powerhouse with her dinks that she always catches.
Okay.
She
Yes.
doesn't even care. She's just out there doing it. I love it. If you know anybody in the Utah area, send them our way. We're open arms. We're competitive. We're not competitive. We're a family. We're everything. We've got a wide variety of people, and we are open to getting. If you have questions, just ask. It's been a blast, and I just want to keep moving forward with this path and touch as many wannabe kayak anglers as possible. So,
Awesome. Some good deal. Yeah, definitely give those different venues a look out there. We'll have some links posted in our podcast description and our YouTube page and Facebook post. We'll have those links on there for you as well. And otherwise, we'll sign off for now. Erin, thank you again so much for being my epic guest tonight.
thank
And
you.
everybody else who's out there listening, have a good night, and we'll talk at you soon. Do you love our podcast and want to help support us even more? Well, now you can. You can simply go to patreon.com/paddle, the letter N, fin, or you can also go to anchor.fm/paddle, the letter N, fin.